Hello, cats and kittens, felines and felidae, humans and variant humans, and every race, class, and subclass. Welcome to another episode of Brainy the RPG Cat. OS Devin says, I'm a sleepy lad tonight, so don't worry if I dip in and out or disappear. Yeah, no trouble at all. Thank you very much for tuning into the stream. OS Devin has very kindly been probably one of the very first people to sign in for every stream, and I appreciate him immensely for it. You're number one. Thank you very much for staying tuned in. So, tonight we're doing tabletop lore. We are going to be talking about the rest of the Spelljammer. Spelljammer is always the hardest thing for me to remember every single one time I do one of these streams. But yeah, we're going to be talking about Spelljammer in 5e, and we're also going to be looking at a couple of 3D tabletop miniature simulators. So I'm working really hard to probably bring the first Brainy-related direct play RPG content to the stream, and I'm hoping that I'm going to be able to have something to show for it by mid-October. But in the meantime, I'm troubleshooting a lot of things. I'm playing around with a lot of different online resources for Dungeons and Dragons, and we're going to be looking at two of them tonight. One of them is going to be D&D Beyond, which is something that you might be familiar with if you have spent any time playing Dungeons and Dragons online. And the other is going to be a pair of 3D full motion tabletop simulators that specialize in using tabletop miniatures and tabletop miniature world building. Both of them are in beta. One of them is called Tailspire. The other one is called RPG Stories World Builder. And so we're just going to take a quick glance at those. We're going to play around for them a little bit for probably the first couple of hours for the stream. And then the last hour we'll hopefully finish reading off the Astral Adventurer's Guide. So yeah, got a lot to do. Not a lot of time to do it. We're going to work hard in order to achieve. And so, once again, this stream is brought to you by Great Media Games for inexpensive TCG single cards. Visit greatmedia.games and use the code 1050 at checkout for 10% off your online purchase. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's get started. Okay, so here's Tailspire. I did have to reduce the size of this dramatically just so that it would be able to fit into the TV resolution window. Certainly, when I am actually doing my legitimate setup, I'm going to be able to make it bigger than this. So let's just go ahead and let's enter into this. Yeah, did we mention this is early access? A lot of things are still work in progress. So then they just kind of have a log of bug fixes right here. This hotfix fixes a really nasty bug affecting building with fantasy assets since the loss of the cyberpunk and sci-fi set. Ooh, there is a cyberpunk and sci-fi set. That's pretty neat. That's pretty interesting. And so, you have the option of creating a new campaign or joining one. What will be the name of my campaign? Brainy the RPG Cat, because we're just playing with this. Alright. So, let's see. Last played never, and then play. So, let's see. So, what I can see, overview building, game master tools, there's a set of dice rollers down here. And, just a lot of different furnitures here. Taverns, medieval fantasies, caverns, doors, and so that's filtering everything by buildings. This second section is all about objects. And then the third section should contain miniatures. So I'm holding a monster miniature right now. I'm holding it and I'm wiggling it around. Wiggle, 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 wiggle. Alright, and so I'm using the right scroll window to zoom in and out. And so I'll just drop that little guy here so that we can have a frame of reference. Yeah, you quite like the UI. It is pretty nice. It's pretty impressive. I'm working this at a very, very small scale simply because I'm using it on the slightly lower resolution monitor. You know. And so right now I have a bare tabletop, and then I just have the critter on the bare tabletop. So let's see what we can do about this. So this is the X and Y axis on this side of the screen. And so let's see, what else can we do? Okay, yeah, we are in, our role is the GM. We are in build mode. Campaign and board settings, boards, players, and atmosphere settings. Atmosphere settings, okay. GM mixer, music, ambient, volume, and effects volume, which I'm not using. At least I believe that the volume should be turned completely down right now. Tell me if it isn't. And yeah, audio, atmosphere. We can change the sky, the mood lighting of this particular board, and then we can change the direction of the shadow. We'll be able to add fog, which I think mostly just kind of turns the field gray. Hunter Dylan 95 says, "Hi Brady." Hi Hunter. Thank you very much for tuning in. Say, we're just playing around with some neat new toys, some dungeon building 3D programs that are available on Steam. So let's see. So if I press any of these buttons, will I start to load the dice? Let me see. And then that would be dropping them. And then you would get the total here. And let's see. Apply this atmosphere to the game board. Players, summon players to this board, invite, generate an invitation code, and put player roles down. That is if you want, other people to actually join this. And let's see. So let's see. This is as far out as I can scroll. There is the miniature once again, and those are the dice. See, if I roll them again, will they give me a different total? Yes, it will. Alright. So let's try to see if we can just put some floor in. So, building. So I moved, from build mode, but I was already in build mode. And so, the interesting thing is that, yeah, there does seem to be a grid here, but I don't seem to see it normally. I'd be a little bit more comfortable about the fact that if I were capable of seeing the builder. Yeah, I'm not sure what happened there, but that right there is a little bit asymmetrical. Okay. See, I can grab bricks and I can drag them. Some of these just don't tessellate correctly. I mean, I think that's the difference between dragging them and dropping them from a position and then actually putting them up in a position. And looks like it could shape up to be a pretty cool tool with more work. Yeah, I mean, it is going to consume a lot of my free time when I am actually sitting here and I am actually developing the interiors of taverns and dungeons and the like, but so I'm trying to figure out how to rotate. See, because I can set these windows down, but then I'm trying to see if I can rotate them horizontally so I can set a couple of them. Let me see. I think I need to control and click. Okay, that shows me the grid again. So let's see. So yeah, left is allowing me to place. Control and left click should allow me to move the tile vertically. So control. Oh, well, by vertically they mean along the y-axis. Then if I did shift, I would move the tile on the plane. Well, I just dropped a bunch of them because, you know, I created a square out of the windows and then I just dragged it across, and that's how that I actually created it. Surely there's a way to somehow have it always on. Well, hard for me to say. So the thing I haven't been able to figure out is how do I delete things? Is that's going to be important to learn. And it does irk me a little bit the fact that, you know, I can't actually see the grid. I can, but yet I have the option of, you know, moving things up and down on the y-axis, making them bigger or taller. You know, and so it's really kind of hard in order to keep tabs of all those, both of those controls. But I'm sure it's something that I can fix with a little bit of practice. So let's see. Okay, I figured out how to delete. I have to highlight, and then I have to left, and then I have to right click. That's how you delete. See, I think, you know, setting down all of those tiles actually made the floor disappear. The floor that I was making before. No, actually it's still down there. See, if tiles go on top of other tiles, do the older tiles vanish? That's my question. Alright. So I think I have to get out of build mode if I want to start manipulating the miniatures again. And so there's a lot of categories of different monsters here. Aberrations, beasts, celestial creatures, constructs. Elf, fae, probably, yeah, leaves nothing, not too many things to the imagination. And then there's cyberpunk and sci-fi ones like astronauts, citizens, and police, space police, or cyberpunk thugs. Alright. Oh, actually, now I can see how I can turn the grid on permanently. What I do, I have to press the G button. So all this is down here. You know, summon another miniature just so that we can put it on top of this doodad right here. So, just a demonstration of how the miniatures are going to look on top of the furniture. So that's pretty interesting. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to open up the other program. It's going to take me a moment to do because once again I have to shrink down the resolutions to where it's going to be able to fit on the other monitor. Yeah, that's a really good one. So that one cost me $25, and it irks me a little bit because it is still in early access, whereas this other one that I have called RPG Stories World Builder is in open beta right now, and it cost me absolutely nothing in order to join the open beta. So, let's see. So one advantage that this one has over the other one is that it actually does expand. It does use Windows expansion and contraction, so I can actually fill the whole screen with this one, other than the other one. So once again, this is the grid, and of course I'm scrolling up and down on it using the middle button on my mouse. And let's see. So I have a journal in here. This is where I would probably write down details about the story. Once again, I have a terrain marker. And so this is a really interesting one because I can just fill the entire domain with one ground type. Like this is all grass, this is all stone, you know, this is all forest. This is desert with some different shading in the, with some different shading, sand dunes and the like, some snow. So that's a really neat feature right now. So let's just put the plain grass down for now. A fantasy stone room. So I just created a tower. And so I can expand the tower, and the tiles tessellate unlike the other one. So, you know, this is a little bit easier on the build. So once again, if I just hold down the left mouse button and drag, then I can create an enormous amount of things. Alright. Just like that. Fence posts. So, yeah, the fence posts, it's a lot less clumsy because I'm not working with, like, individual models and individual tiles like I am with the other one. I'm going to have to learn how to delete again. Alright, so these are objects. I'll put down some bushes. I believe I can expand them. Oh no, actually I'm just duplicating them. So, so this represents the miniatures. They are in the menu in T poses, but then when you put them down, they have a more normal pose to them. I mean, this human is tiny compared to the grid. And so, moving character is under construction. There's still something that they're not dealing with, so you have to suspend your disbelief a little bit more when it comes to having characters face each other. Oh no, actually there is a rotator. So this would be the rotator here, and I would rotate the man here. And so those are the human-sized characters, and they're taking up what would be a 5-foot block of land, which is not too inaccurate. Let's see. This is how I would change the lighting, just like the other one. So, you know, of the two, I'm leaning a little bit more towards RPG stories because it is giving me a lot more versatility. It's a lot more immediately user-friendly and buildable. And so what does this do? Oh, well, this creates darkness. See, just a square of darkness. Unfortunately, I lost my old man in it. And so presumably, if you're playing a game with somebody, then you can put up the darkness in areas where you wouldn't want them to see parts of the map, and then you would delete it afterwards. Or you can make it completely white. Yeah, he lives there now. There's no getting him out of here, not that I can see. There are some spell effects tiles. See, this here is just this is a firebolt. Or actually, I think those are supposed to be lit gem nodes, things like that. And so some pool effects like this blue zone, zones of different colors, portals of different colors. You know, a little bit of the aurora borealis. And I can make it snow. Put down light rain. Sandstorm. So yeah, you know, of the two, I like RPG stories a bit more, and so it's probably going to take a little bit more work because it's still in beta and it doesn't have a lot of options yet. But compared to the other one, which is also still in beta and still is up for sale on the Steam store, this one, yeah, seems to provide a bit more of a complete grid experience. So, like I said, I'll probably be playing a little bit with more with them offline, and try to decide um, which of the two might be a better fit for my campaigns. But you know, especially for a currently free tool, that is a big draw. Yeah. And so I have an RPG map maker, but I was actually planning on making my own illustrations in that device. So um, that really doesn't. That's neither here nor there. That is something I'm probably going to be using when I publish maps, as opposed to when I'm actually playing live maps during the stream. All right, so now let me take a moment here. Okay, gotta pull this up. So, like I've been saying, I've been playing around with D&D Beyond. Is that I did take the time in order to buy some new manuals and put them in here, so that I have what I currently believe is the most important loadout that you can have in Dungeons and Dragons version 5. And so these are all this is what I think all the necessary books are in version 5. Is the Player's Handbook, the Monster Manual, the Xanathar's Guide to Everything, Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, Monsters of the Multiverse. And so it probably cost me $150 to get the set. Whereas, they also just kind of offer a full bundle that would actually have been like $320 and contained a lot of books that I don't feel are as necessary as these 5. I've also been doing the one D&D playtest, which you already know, because how should I put this? Because I was discussing the one D&D with you about a couple of weeks ago, and I went ahead and I sent in my survey. I probably should have sent in my survey. I probably should have done a stream, and then I probably should have done the survey on the stream, so that maybe you have that would have given people a better idea of what my opinions of one D&D is. But that test session is still going on, so I am. So I'm still basically trying to figure out how that works, and so. Queen Vampiress, hello! Thank you very much for tuning in, and OS Devin, they're having a lovely conversation in the chat right now, and I'm getting bundles as a result of being part of their $2.99 monthly subscription, and so I just got all of this stuff because I'm trying to be fancy as I possibly can. So. For those of you who are in the know, I usually work very closely with Great Media Games and the Great Media Games Discord channel in order to put together the shows that I anticipate that I'm going to start up in October, and I'm doing a survey with them right now just to ask them what other online services that they use in order to play Dungeons and Dragons, and a lot of people tend to have a toss up between Roll20 or just Theater of the Mind and Discord. So what I'm trying to figure out is probably try to figure out a way in order to do actual play as Theater of the Mind as possible, but also include Roll20. And so that's what I'm currently working on. And I am in the middle of so I have accounts both in Roll20 and in D&D Beyond, and I do have books that the basic rule books purchased in both of those programs because I'm insane, because I love Dungeons and Dragons exactly this much. And then I had the physical books too, so I've bought all these things 3 times over. So, can't get enough of D&D. Well, D&D Beyond is a very useful tool. Oh, as Devin says, you maniac, yeah. Can't get enough of D&D, you know me. I'm down with D&D, now you know me. I'm down with D&D, now you know me. Alright, so, I do like D&D Beyond. Unfortunately, this is probably the only service that we're going to be looking at tonight that actually doesn't have a grid or a map component to it. But it's useful when it comes to, automating certain types of processes that you need in order to play Dungeons and Dragons. And probably the chief one lately has been the character creator. So let's go ahead and let's just roughly create a character right now, and let's see, do a character creation. So I've made character sheets in D&D Beyond before, but I've never used this account to do it. So that's why it's currently empty. So I like to do a standard build. And I'll just go ahead and I'll make myself. That's probably the easiest reference that I can do at the moment. And so they have switches for all the official books that you can potentially use in a campaign. You have the ability to use homebrew content, but only if you're a subscriber. So you can put that on there, and you can search for just the amount of homebrew that exists on the D&D Beyond website, and then you can add that to your campaign. You can add Critical Role content. I can add Magic the Gathering, Eberron. The content, also there's content from the Rick and Morty and Dungeons and Dragons crossover comic book that came out from Oni Press, I believe. And anything that's non-core. So, I have a tendency to keep it to the 3, but, blood hunters are not banned from my game. Let me just put it that way. Excuse me. So, you can allow or you can restrict optional features for a character. You can advance using either milestone or XP, and so this is really useful because if you want to, you can have the DM tell you that you're prepared to go to the next level using milestone, or you can actually set it to XP, and you can increase your character's level based on the legal XP point amounts that already exist in Dungeons and Dragons. And this is always the advantage when it comes to using software for these sorts of things, because I'm no good at math, I may be brainy, but I'm not Archimedes, for crying out loud. And so, it's great that a lot of these services, they have built-in calculators in order to calculate some of the necessary things that you need to in a game, like XP. And So hit points, you have the option of, just going up the fixed amount, or also by using a manual and then doing a dice roll in order to, manually increase those. Whether or not you want to use encumbrance, and your ability score and modifier display, and character, and you can also set characters between public and private. Okay, so choosing a race. And so because I do own all of the since I own Monsters of the Multiverse, I have every race that's available in Monsters of the Multiverse. Every character from Tasha's Cauldron, or so there's only a handful of characters in Tasha's Cauldron. There's more classes that are available, simply because there's an enormous amount of classes split between Xanathar's Guide and Tasha's Cauldron. And Let me see. So if I'm making myself, of course, I'm going to go with Tabaxi. All right, and so you know, ability score. So that opens up this chart right here that allows you to choose um, the optional traits that your character is going to have based on race. Humanoid character, I'm choosing small because I know this of myself. I cannot deny it any longer. I am small. Speed, walking speed is 30 feet. And so I think walking speed changes during depending on height. No, it actually doesn't. It's 30 feet either way. You know, I get claws. I get proficiency in perception and stealth, dark vision, and feline agility. Little plankton tabaxi. Yes, and once I have the Krabby Patty formula, I'm going to. Okay. Oh, gee, I honestly haven't thought that out completely. Well, isn't that a kick in the pants? Alright, so. While choosing my class, of course, I'm a wizard. I say that as though I'm just so regretful about it. So, hit points at level 1. And so I can go ahead and I can bump this up to further levels. The one that I have on paper has gone all the way up to level 5 at this point. You know, proficiencies in wizard skills. Mine tend to be history and arcana, spell casting. Yeah, and then arcane recovery. So even though I can't change these stats, you can actually just look up what they are supposed to be using this section of the website. And so spells, spell book. Gosh, what did I know at level 1? I think you start out with 5 cantrips, and then you don't have any prepared spells in your spell book yet. That's basically what you're supposed to be doing here. So let's see. So I forget specifically where you're supposed to put in the spells. I believe it is supposed to be this section. Okay. Let's see. I used to know how to do this. Oh, here they are. Okay. So for cantrips, what do I typically carry? I carry a fireball. Firebolt. Sorry about that. Firebolt. The simpler, the easier one. So a mage hand. Let's see, a disguise self, a floating disc, and oh wait, is that actually first level? I think floating disc was a first level. Well, I can put the first levels as well. First level, magic missile. So go back to cantrips really quick. Say gust. Usually have 2 offensive spells if you're going to play wizard, folks. And so I moved past this again. So what have I already What have I already put down? Firebolt, Gust, and Mage Hand. Floating Disc. And Mending, why not? I can be good with my hands. Yeah, I think I set that up right. Nope. I don't know how I skipped over that a second time. I don't think it's allowing me to choose it. I think, yeah, maybe I'm relatively stuck with three cantrips. So prepared spells are 3, floating disc. I also detect magic. And so this is a great way, in order to put together a character that's completely error-proof, is that I'm limiting myself to only have the 3 cantrips I'm allowed to select at level 1. Let's see. Mage Armor and say to have Long Strider, that would be really broken because I have an enormous amount of movement as a tabaxi. No, I believe I've selected everything now. Alright, so yeah, that is my current set of spells. Floating Disc. Thought I put a magic missile. Maybe I skipped a beat on that one. Yeah, well, it's on there, but I don't know. Maybe it's just not treated as a prepared spell. Choosing a generation method, standards array, Of course, in a standard array, intelligence is your highest stat. I tend to like to do constitution so that I would be able to get a good bonus on my on my HP. Then I would go wisdom, charisma, dexterity, and strength. And so, strength, my weakest stat, of course, because I'm supposed to be the one, doing it at range. OS Devon says, I appreciate the restrictions on traits and spells that require prerequisites first. It's a good way to make sure you got things right. Yes, I agree with that. Maybe I'm just going to go off and I'm going to untether this a little bit better so that I am a bit more awesome afterwards. But other than that, no objections from this side of the room. So, my strength would be a -1 modifier. My dexterity would be a 0 modifier. My constitution would be a +2. My intelligence would be a +2. My wisdom would be a +1, and my charisma would be a +1. I do believe I get an extra +1 for charisma, but don't quote me on that. Choose a portrait file. And so, pick something out of the the very nice sets of fan art that I've been given. All right, so my background is typically one for an acolyte. Because I am a librarian and I've spent my life in servitude of the goddess of knowledge. I tend to, in addition to my English language and my cat meowing, I also like to speak Dwarvish and Elvish. Let me see. Shelter of the faithful. Personality traits. Capable of finding common ground. Quote or misquote sacred texts and proverbs. Let me see. As far as ideals, always try to help those in need. Bonds. Everything I do is for the common people. And flaws. Once I pick a goal, I'm obsessed with the detriment of everything else in my life. I think we went over that. I am obsessed, and I am particularly obsessed with Dungeons and Dragons. I don't know how I did the evil laugh last time, so I'm not going to be able to imitate it. And so, yeah, alignment, neutral good. Well, faith, acolyte of Dinah, and lifestyle, modest. Hair, skin, eyes, height, weight, all of those things. And so this other section down here populates the background traits that I had chosen above. And everything else is just for the benefit of, creating notes. Choosing a starting equipment for wizards. Technically, it should be a dagger, but I tend to completely forsake the dagger because I have claws and they do the same amount of damage. A component pouch and a scholar's pack. See, a holy symbol. Mine is technically it's an amulet. I tend to carry around just a little candlestick, and that's actually what my magical focus is. 5 sticks of incense, once again, works better with a candlestick. So, 5 sticks of incense, vestments, a set of common clothes, and a pouch containing 15 gold points. When I reach level 2, I might get my School of Conjuration, and then I just have the ability to pull inanimate objects out of my hat, which is incredibly useful. So, then once you're completed with everything, you can view the character sheet on D&D Beyond, or you can actually download it, and you can have it on standard paper for when you actually go to a physical place in order to play a game of Dungeons and Dragons. And so, yeah, everything is here. Firebolt, unarmed strike, cat's claws. So, actions of combat 2, weapon fighting. Maybe not. Okay. Let's see. Oh, so you're already heading out, Queen Vampiress. Okay. Have a good night, Queen Vampiress. Thank you very much for tuning into the stream. Take care. Have a lovely evening. Is what OS Devin said, but what I want to say as well, of course. Alright. And so, this is a pretty swell gadget that you can use with D&D Beyond. So, the second thing that they're working on right now is this little doodad right here called Build an Encounter. And, so, my issue... So, let me see. I had to filter... So, this allows you... this is a good Dungeon Master's tool. Because it allows you to pick out monsters that you have that are currently in your monster manual, and you get to pair them up in certain configurations and provide a printout for what the grouping and the challenge level is of those groups of monsters. And so, allow me to demonstrate. So right now is that. A build for the Demogorgon in Infernal Machine is not available to me because I don't own that book, and so they would want me to buy the book before I actually try to develop that one. However, I do have an Aracrocus from the standard monster manual. An Aracroca typically has an armor class of 12, hit points of 13, speed of 20 feet, and a flight of 50 feet. So, let me see. If I were to add one Aracroca to an encounter, it turns this into a trivial difficulty. Requires a total XP of 50%. Well, grants a total XP of 50%. An adjusted XP of 50%. And at different difficulties, you would award this much XP to every player upon completion of the battle. And so, if you were just to take Aracrocas and you're going to increase them, like say you're beset upon by 10 Aracrocas, then the difficulty changes to easy. The total amount of XP is 500, and the adjusted XP is 1250 XP. And so, once again, these totals go up based on that. And so, that's the handy part of this encounter builder, is that it's effectively a great big calculator for any kinds of potential monster encounters that you might have. So, let's go over to... let's add an Abjurer. Oh, actually, what is that? From Volo's Guide to Monsters. Okay, no, actually, I don't own that one. So, continue to go down the list of potential monsters that you can use. And so, Adult Black Dragon, based on the rules. Suddenly, there's an Adult Black Dragon in this encounter. This difficulty has risen way up to Deadly. The total amount of XP is 11,650. And the adjusted XP is 23,000 XP. An Adult Black Dragon, well, of course it does. It has 195 hit points, 19 natural armor, speed feet of 40 feet, fly 80 feet, and swim 40 feet. You know. And so, OS Devon is saying, very nice. Yeah, this is a very nice tool. Let's see if I can pull up something that is part of some of the books that I currently own. So a Kruthic is effectively like a Velociraptor. Armor class of 18, hit points of 39, speed 40 feet, burrow of 20 feet, and a climb of 40 feet. And so to add one, I would, well, once again, difficulty is trivial if it's 1. If you add 2, it would be an easy, and if you added 3, it would be a medium. So this monster goes up on a scale of difficulty that is 1 to 1. Every time you add one more monster to it, then the difficulty rises. You know, and so you want to do clusters of monsters. If you want to do, let's see. I wish I could stop, putting together dragons, but let me see. So, something like, sets of monsters that come from Monsters of the Multiverse, something like that. And so, you might see that 1 or 2 of these monsters are actually doubled up because they are in multiple books. Alep originally came from Mordenkainen's Tomb of Foes, but there's also an entry for them in Monsters of the Multiverse. So, since I own that one, I'll use the one for Monsters of the Multiverse. Their armor class is 13 and their hit points are 40. And they are, they are mages, and I believe they're mages of monstrosities. They have Maddening Touch, they have a Howling Babble, and they have a Whispers of Convulsion as their attacks. One of them immediately bumps an attack up to easy. So you take that, you put a handful of shock troops along with them. Like, let's see. see. Okay, no, we don't want Androsphinx. We want maybe like 2 or 3 pieces of animated armor. Animated armor, of course, is armor class of 18, 33 hit points, speed of 25 feet, and so we would add those to our encounter. And with 1 and 1, this has already escalated to a hard. The total amount of XP is 2,000, and the adjusted XP is 300 XP. Is 3,000 XP. You know, if I were to do 1 and then 2, then this would go up to deadly. So, you know, animated armors, because of their really just truly high defense and their ability to use multi-attack, they are, you know, harder than standard monsters. So I'm trying to find something that is, you know, just incredibly... that's just really going to raise this just a notch, and so let's try an ape. So that brings us up from beginning to medium, but then up to hard afterwards. And so, you know, if you have the time in order to, you know, spend with this builder, then what you can do is you can go ahead, you can work everything out, and then, you know, provide a printout for your tabletop game about how difficult your planned encounters are going to be. And so it takes a lot of the guesswork about, you know, how, you know, whether or not the encounters that you're providing for your players are going to be difficult enough for this group or not. And so that's what I really, really like about the encounter builder. You know, once again, it's still in beta. Something that's pretty frustrating about me is that I don't seem to be able to filter out the books that I don't currently own. I mean, that's good for D&D Beyond because they can probably just use that in order to encourage me to buy the additional books. But you know, it's a little bit frustrating for me because, you know, I just want to work as efficiently as possible. So I'm hoping that option is going to be coming somewhere down the line. Wizards of the Coast, a subsidiary of Hasbro. Alright, so all of the new business aside, time to go back to the old business. We are going to look through the rest of the Spelljammer and Space Adventures in Space Sourcebook, Astral Adventurers Guide. And so I'm hoping that, you know, we're going to be able to complete reading this, and then we're going to start reading our first adventure book the very next stream. So let me see. We went through new player character races. We went through, the lecture on the gravity plane. Let's see. Gosh, I love that art. Yeah. I mean, if nothing else, you know, they employ some of the best fantasy artists that exist these days. I think I brought this up the last time, but I just have a great big collection of Magic the Gathering art cards. I hope at some point, you know, one of the artists actually gets invited here to the Denver metro area so I can be able to get those signed. Let me see. So we've talked about the Astral Sea. And fishing in the Astral Sea, using the air bubble spell. Magical items. Okay, so I think, we might be about here. Okay, so magic items. This section describes magic items that are essential to travel in wild space, as well as other items likely to be found on the astral plane. A fish suit. A bulky suit which fully encases your head and body, takes 1 minute to don or doff. While worn, it enables you to breathe in an airless environment and renders you immune to the harmful effects of any gas that surrounds you. It also grants you a swimming speed equal to your walking speed while underwater, or a flying speed equal to your walking speed in an environment with no gravity. Spelljamming helm. This ornate chair is to propel and maneuver a ship which has been installed through space and air. So, you know, we've talked a lot about space jamming helms earlier in this book, and this is effectively what it is. It is a place where the captain sits in order to use his magic and or psychic abilities in order to pilot the ship. And so, yeah, lots of styles, you know. People got to be fancy when it comes to how space travel works. Um, the sensation of being attuned to a spell-jamming helm is akin to pins and needles effect one experiences after one's arm or leg falls asleep, but not as painful. While attuned to a spell-jamming helm and sitting on it, you gain the following abilities for as long as you maintain concentration. You can use the helm to move the ship through space, air, or water up to the ship's speed. You can steer the vessel, albeit in a somewhat clumsy fashion, in much the way that a rudder or oars can be used to maneuver a seafaring ship. At any time, you can see or hear what's happening on and around the vessel as though you are standing on a location of your choice around it. And transfer attunement. You can use an action to touch a willing spellcaster, and that creature attunes to the spell-jamming helm immediately, and your attunement to it ends. So only one person can be on a spell-jamming helm at a time. And so you better hope that you have loyal crew that is willing to give you control of your spell-jamming helm in the event that you need somebody other than you to run it. And so OS Devin says, yeah, I love that concept. I love this concept too, you know. Spelljammer is just one of my favorite Dungeons & Dragons modules, specifically because of things like this. So, the cost of a spell-jamming helm: it propels and steers a ship as much as sails, oars, and rudders, and a spell-jamming helm is easy to create if one has the proper spell. Create spell-jamming helm. Has a material component cost of 5,000 GP, so at least one can pay to acquire a spell-jamming helm. So, I mean, you know, there's a lot of magic users that can really just take any chair and they can create one of these. I believe that when we saw the spell earlier in the Astral Adventurer's Guide, it was a level 7 spell, so you have to be at least a somewhat experienced wizard in order to do that. But in the event that you're not, then spell jamming helms just happen to be for sale all across wild space and the ethereal plane, and you can buy one for roughly about the cost of 5,000 gold points. Wild space merchants, including Dorwars and Mercanes, which we, talked about when we looked at Boo's Astral Menagerie, they typically sell a spelljamming helm for substantially more than it costs to make. How much more depends on the market, but 75,000 gold points would be a reasonable demand. A desperate buyer might have to pay 10,000 gold points or more. I mean, that's just supply and demand, open, untethered capitalism on the high seas or high outer space planes, as it were. And an orrery. Inside a wild space system, a portable arcane device automatically tracks the positions and movements of all suns, planets, moons, and comets within that system, projecting a display of all these bodies in the space above its current location. In that display, a white pulsating pinprick of light marks the orrery's location. Few indeed. Spelljamming ships. Okay, so the standard crew complement. Okay, the standard crew complement for a spelljamming ship includes one captain to give orders, one spelljammer to pilot the ship, and one or more crew members to operate its weapons. Some ships carry extra crews or passengers. A ship that has more than a standard crew component will degrade the quality of its air supply more quickly. So that's something that you have to watch out for, is that make sure that your crew is traveling on a vessel that is large enough so that nobody on it will suffocate. Ship-to-ship combat. So this is probably the what most people are looking for when it comes to a Spelljammer campaign. At the start of an engagement, the DM decides how far a ship is from its enemies. 3 possibilities are provided in the starting encounter distance table. The shorter the distance, the less time crews have to load weapons and make other preparations. So, beginning with an encounter, if they are 250 feet away, long range for ballista, mangonel, short bows, long bows, light crossbows, and heavy crossbows. So, you're so close to the other ship that you will be able to use your arrows on the enemies. Um, 500 feet long range for longbows and mangonels beyond the range of ballista and crossbows. And then 1,000 feet is beyond the range of most ranged weapons. Okay. The Dungeon Master's Guide provides a variant rule called Side Initiative, which is ideal for ship-to-ship engagements, since it saves you the trouble of tracking initiative for individual creatures aboard each ship. Unfortunately, I don't think I know the rules of side engagement off of the top of my head. But now that I've mentioned it on the stream, I might actually go back and I might look it up, and I might make it the beginning part of a future tabletop lore stream. Because I care that you know. That's what I'm here for. Alright. A shipboard weapon. A spelljamming ship typically has one or more shipboard weapons, ballista and mangonels being the most common. Such weapons are slow to load and fire. Player characters are almost always better off using their own weapons and spells in ship-to-ship combat, reserving shipboard weapons for targets that are too far away to be damaged by other means. So, presumably, if the ship is too far away, you should use the shipboard weapons, but you should use the standard weapons as they come closer, which, if you imagine combat on the high seas with cannonade, it's exactly the same thing. Let's see. Moving and steering a ship. A spelljammer can use a spelljamming helm to move and steer the ship. On their turn, the spelljammer determines how far the ship moves and decides whether to approach another ship or put more distance between the two. And then boarding. When one ship moves within 5 feet of another ship, the spelljammer or pilot moving the ship can maneuver it alongside the other ship, enabling creatures to move safely from one ship's deck to the other ship's deck until one of the ships pulls away from the others. A ship that has enough movement can pull alongside another vessel, deploy a boarding party, and then move away, providing the members of the boarding party took the ready action to position themselves so that they can move on to the other vessel when it's close enough. And so, earlier in the book, we were talking about rules of engagement in terms of air pockets. I believe that something in the neighborhood of if two ships are 70 feet apart from each other, then their air pockets merge, and that's what allows one ship to board another ship. But, there's a lot of caveats with that because, even though you're capable of closing the air pocket, you might not be closing the distance between two ships. So, try not to jump off, is all I'm trying to say. Because gravity, in a planar sense, is probably normal in that situation, and you don't want to drop down right into open space. So, crashing. Yeah, you can run your ship into another object or a creature by moving the ship into the target space and making a special attack roll against the target's armor class. If the attack roll hits, a crash occurs, otherwise the target moves out of the ship's path, avoiding the crash. If the DM decides that a crash is unavoidable, no attack roll is necessary, and the crash occurs automatically. Oh, that's right, because the ships have their own bubble of air. Yeah. Let me see if I can go back to this and still be able to save my space, but, so effectively, you just kind of have to keep this illustration in mind. I suppose you always have to keep this illustration in mind because, okay, the extent of the air envelope, roughly about, I think, between 30 and 50 feet from the interior of the vessel. So anytime you're around that area, then you're effectively sharing the air with the other ship. And so, let's see. Let me scroll. So I went a little too far. They're starting to show types of ships. And so, yeah, I went way down. Okay, so once again, back to crashing. After resolving an effect of a crash, determine whether the ship's gravity plane is suppressed. See overlapping gravity planes earlier in the chapter. So you can damage your linear gravity plane by crashing a ship into another ship. If the suppression of a ship's gravity plane would cause the creatures on or inside to fall, they fall in whatever direction is appropriate for the sudden change in gravity. And then, to determine falling damage and use the falling rules from the player's handbook. Okay, that's a no-brainer. So, crash damage of a large creature or object struck 4d10, 8d10, or 16d10, depending on size. Ship repairs, non-magical repairs to a ship can be made while the vessel is berthed. Mending spell is useful in this situation. And now we're going to really look through the illustrations because we are going through the list of Spelljammer vessels, and so this is a GIF bombard, and so it does probably look like a pirate ship, but one that has a significant amount of ornateness to it. The even though we talk about the helm being the chair back here, is that this hood decoration is that of a dragon with a green orb in its mouth. It's a gorgeous ship. They're built by GIF. The feature of each ship is an enormous cannon that fires massive cannonballs capable of blowing other ships to smithereens. So I think that this whole thing, in addition to being the head of the ship, is also a cannon. That is really impressive. A bombard can carry up to 14 giant cannonballs, each of which weighs 10 tons. A bombard can float and sail on water, but it can't land safely on the ground. Armor class is 15, 300 hit points, damage threshold of 20s, flight speed of 35 feet. And these are feet of wild space feet, which are theoretically a lot larger than the walking speed of any passenger. This is the Damsel Fly Ship. So this one is pretty well known because this is probably the one that is most often used in illustrations for Spelljammer. Usually it's a Damsel Fly Ship. I do believe that there is also a Firefly Ship, but we'll see. Made mostly of metal, cannot float on water, but its legs enable it to land safely on the ground. The sliding hatch just behind the wings allows access to the ship's mangonel turret. The ship's cargo hold can easily be turned into a crew, cabins, or other weapon deck. They're often used as courier vessels and armored transport. Damsel Fly ship owners are a proud lot, fond of painting their ships in colorful patterns as well as customizing their vessels with special equipment. They use these large private gatherings of Damsel Fly ship owners are not uncommon. They use these get-togethers to show off their ships and to race one another through asteroid belts and other obstacle courses. Alright. So, two classes of this. One's a ballista, one's a mangonel. And so they are relatively smaller and in the interior than the gift ships are. So, flying fish ship. So, effectively, a lot of these are just going to end up being the shape of the animal that they're portraying. Flying fish ships are the most common vessels in wild space, favorites amongst merchants and adventurers alike. A flying fish ship can float and sail on water, but isn't built to land on the ground. Typical weapons on a flying fish ship include a forward-mounted mangonel and an off-mounted ballista. Armor class 15, which is probably, that's probably as small as the armor class of a ship is going to get. And 250 hit points. And once again, a ballista and a mangonel. So, slightly wider deck when compared to the Damsel Fly ship. Given the choice between the two of them, I choose the flying fish ship because, at least you do have the opportunity to put it in the water. And since it's probably the most common ship, it's probably the ship that, is most used when it comes to, planet-to-planet landings, discovery, cargo. So this is a hammerhead ship. Popular craft, especially among pirates and merchants carrying heavy cargo. They can float on water and sail across it, but they aren't built to land on the ground. Standard weapons on a hammerhead ship include fore and aft mangonels, a ballista, and a reinforced bow for ramming. Yeah, probably the most generally compatible. Yeah. So they're also 15 class wood, but they have 400 hit points. So really, they're just making up the difference in armor class based on how large it is. And there are ballistas and there are mangonels, but there are also blunt ram classes. Um, Blunt ram is a melee weapon attack, 8 to hit, range 0 fit, um, causes 88, 16d10 bludgeoning damage. Alright, and so this is the Hammerhead ship. It does really just kind of seem to be a larger version of the Flying Fish ship. Lamprey ship. Antiquated, some of the oldest spell-jamming ships still in use. Using the metal grappling jaws built into its bow, a lamprey ship can attach itself to another ship, which is a critical feature during boarding actions. Other standard weapons include 4 ballista on the main deck. A lamprey can float on water, though it can't land safely on the ground. Lamprey ships that land on the ground have the distressing habit of rolling over, as more than a few crews have discovered to their dismay. And so they have a ballista ship, they have a Jaws ship, which, Jaws is also a melee weapon attack, plus 6 to hit, does 22 4d10 piercing damage. So, yeah. Let's see what else we got here. A living ship. This has got to be interesting. Druids, rangers, and clerics devoted to gods and nature are often found aboard living ships, as are wild space explorers who don't have to worry about their ship's air envelope being foul during a long voyage. The living ship's main distinctive feature is a fully grown tree ant on the half deck. The tree ant has a speed of 0 because its roots are woven into the deck and the ship are inseparable. If the ship is reduced to 0 hit points, the tree ant dies of shock. The ship can function if its tree ant dies, but the tree ant can never be replaced with another one. When the tree ant finishes a long rest, it repairs the ship's hull, enabling the ship to regain 4d12 hit points and refreshes the ship's air envelope. A living ship can float on water and sail across it, but it can't land safely on the ground. And so, they come in ballistas. I think they only do have ballista versions of them. And so you definitely want to have this ship always attacking an opponent at range, because you don't want to be responsible for the death of a living tree creature that the ship is created out of. Okay, so this is the Nautiloid. We love talking about nautilus shells in nautical science, and so we're going to do it a little bit more right now. Poor tree ant. We must respect and defend it. Yeah, and so definitely a pastime most undertaken by druids. So, built and used by mind flayers, nautiloids are designed exclusively for space travel. They can't float on water or land safely on the ground. As an action, a creature can attune to a nautiloid spell-jamming helm, and in physical contact with a ship can transform the nautiloid and all creatures and objects aboard it to a different plane of existence, or at least near a destination envisioned by the spelljammer. This property is a feature of the ship, not the helm. Each time this property is used, roll a d6 on a 5 or 6. The property recharges after 1 minute. Otherwise, it can't be used again for 24 hours. Alright. So, Psychic Ship, folks. Psychic Ship will displace you in another part of the universe if you mess around with it. It has ballistas, mangonels, and also tentacles. The tentacle melee weapon attack plus 8 to hit, reaches up to 30 feet. Does 20 to 4d10 bludgeoning damage. Night Spider. If this isn't a Drow elf ship, then I will eat my hat. Neogi terrorize wild space and ships of their own construction, which others call night spiders. Well, I have to go back and I have to read the Neogi section of Blue's Astral Menagerie. A Night Spider's crew usually consists of 19 Neogi and up to half a dozen Umber Hulks, which Neogi use as shock troops. I'm also probably going to have to draw a graphic of myself eating my hat, so that will come in handy elsewhere, I believe. A Night Spider crew consists of 15 Neogi. Yeah, okay. Night Riders are designed for space travel alone, can't float on water or land safely on the ground. Standard weaponry on a Night Spider includes 4 ballistas and a forward-facing mangonel. So, as fancy as these look, they don't have any kind of specialized weaponry. Scorpion ships, archaic metal warships that have never lost their popularity because of their versatility. Articulated legs enable a scorpion ship to land safely on the ground and move across a solid surface at a walking speed of 30 feet. The ship cannot float on water. However, a ballista is mounted on the top deck and a mangonel is perched on the end of the tail. The ship's 2 claws are relatively inefficient in combat, but a claw that grabs a creature can quickly take it out of action. Alright, so 19, armor class of 19, 250 hit points. Ballista, mangonel, and then a 2 claws melee attack. A Shrike ship, a swift vessel of a relatively recent design, quickly gaining popularity with merchants and pirates. A Shrike ship's legs enable it to land safely on the ground. The ship can float but isn't built for traveling on water and swings quickly in rough seas. Standard weaponry on a Shrike ship includes 3 ballista, 1 on the forecastle, 1 in the middle of the top deck, and 1 on the stern castle. In a desperate situation, the ship's reinforced bow can be used as a piercing ram. So, you don't want to ram into anybody with this ship, but if you do, then there is a listed option too. Oh, that is a Neogi. Quickly, yeah, you were able to look that up. Well, now just out of morbid curiosity. Yeah, so this little guy right here, that's what a Neogi is. They are kind of like spiders crossed with snakes, I believe. I had the image I have a second ago. Yeah, there it is. Let me just zoom in on that one. So, I don't know. I think maybe a Audible commercial just came on. Sorry about that, Twitch. Okay, Space Galleon. So, Space Galleon, yeah, probably as classic a ship as you can possibly find out in wild space. A mainstay among the host of vessels that ply wild space in the astral sea, Space Galleons can easily pass for an ordinary seafaring galleons because they can land on water and move across it like their namesakes. They can sail into ports on terrestrial worlds without attracting undue attention. So, this is what you're flying in if you are trying to maintain the Prime Directive. That's Star Trek reference. Alright, Squidship. The one that is out in the distance is probably a little bit more cartoony than to my taste. I would definitely put a little bit more wood grain into that, but that's me. Those are the choices that I would make. Among the oldest types of spelljamming vessels, squid ships are popular with privateers and are often used as patrol ships. Standard weapons include a forward-mounted mangonel, 2 aft-mounted ballista, and a reinforced bow for ramming. The tentacles can extend from the bow, account for nearly half of the ship's keel length. So, I'm pretty sure that this also has... Oh, no, this one interestingly does not have a tentacle attack. It just has ballista, a mangonel, and a piercing ram. Those tentacles really just don't seem to do anything except for make up the helm of the ship, Well, make up the bow of the ship, and it's a really large bow compared to absolutely everything, because this is all the walking space on all 3 decks of the ship. And makes it look cooler. Yeah, why not? Star Moth. So, I think that's pretty, I am the lone star moth of the apocalypse. Think of me as you look into the night sky. Star moths are ships constructed and flown by astral elves who don't like it when these ships end up in the hands of others. A star moth's hull is fashioned from a grown and sculpted organic substance, and its enormous decorative wings are made of shimmering crystal. The vessel is built for space travel, but its design does enable it to float on water and land safely on the ground. Standard weaponry includes 2 ballista nestled in the star moss eye holes and a mangonel mounted above the bridge. This gets you away from those eye holes. Alright. Turtle ship. A turtle ship is encased in a protective metal shell, as befits its name, and bristles with weapons. In addition to its roomy quarters, it can carry a decent-sized payload, making it popular among traders and others who need a lot of cargo space. The ship can land on the ground and it floats on water. Sliding panels can be closed to make the hull airtight, enabling the ship to travel underwater safely, even to great depths. So this is really the vessel that has everything. This one is land, sea, and air, and also underwater. Standard weaponry on a turtle ship includes 3 forward-mounted ballista and a rear-facing mangonel. These weapons cannot be used while the ship is underwater. It's pretty sizable as far as the deck is concerned. It's, the Tyrant ship. It kind of looks like a spider's nest, something like that. Beholders carve Tyrant ships out of clone using their disintegration rays and use their ships to wander the astral plane, looking for worlds to conquer and rival beholders to destroy. No 2 Tyrant ships look alike, but they all have 1 or more features reminiscent of their creators, such as a bulbous shape and eye stalk. So yeah, now that I look at it, it is pretty beholder shaped. A spherical chamber on the ship's command deck functions as a spell jamming helm that only beholders can attune to. Any beholder that occupies this chamber can attune to it, reducing a Tyrant ship to 0 hit points. That not only destroys it, but also destroys the ship's spell jamming helm and eye stalk cannons. A Tyrant ship can't float on water, but it can safely land on the ground. So, 3 eye stalk cannons. I think that's probably the only kind of defenses that they hope that they expect these ships to have. So, pretty good when it comes to air and land versatility. Not as good when it comes to weapons. Okay, a Wasp Ship. And so, compared to, it looks virtually the same as the other ship. They're just, just a slightly different arrangement of the sails. Wasp ships are lightweight wooden vessels capable of landing safely on the ground but not on water. They appeal to adventurers because they're affordable and they don't require a large crew. Pirates like them because they're swift. Aristocrats are fond of using them as flying yachts because the ship's cargo hold can easily be converted into a posh living quarters. The ship's raised back provides high ground for weapon emplacement, which is typically equipped with a ballista. Alright. So, yeah, they have, ballistas. See, a very small amount, very, very little room, so, yeah, definitely an outer space yacht. And, to think that, the people are using this for a pleasure cruise when there probably isn't much of a space for anything else. Spacefaring beholders, that's a terrifying thought. Well, beholders are such calculating creatures is that you can just as easily assume that anything that can potentially bring you into a harmful position with a beholder is probably just beyond your human capabilities, as it would be beyond my human capabilities. Okay, Chapter 3, The Rock of Brawl. We're all done with Spelljammer ships. We're going to talk about locations now. Brawl is a city built on an asteroid. Its inhabitants, who hail from many worlds, typically refer to Brawl as the Rock. Finally, the Rock has returned to the Rock of Brawl. There's no other place quite like it in wild space. Let's see. The rock trace. Oh, this is the rock, first of all. Yeah, so it is. Yeah, just very much a large planar city on top of an asteroid. And so let's see. The rock traces its roots back to roughly 170 years ago, when the eponymous Captain Brawl established a pirate refuge here. The asteroid became a heaven for thieves and cutthroats. Among them, a few merchants and entrepreneurs set up shop. So this is the Sword Coast in outer space, folks. Yeah, so I remember this one. I remember from one of the campaigns that Idle Champions linked to a while ago. Oh yes, Idle Champions. I had the opportunity to play that on so many individual consoles and PC games, but I'm not really that into the idea of having a Dungeons and Dragons based cookie clicker. That's all I'm going to say. Um, the place evolved into something resembling a settlement of citizens after Captain Brawl's death. The burgeoning city became known as Brawl. For the next several decades, various pirate captains held sway in the city, but none of them demonstrated interest in trying to take over for sole leadership of the city. Eventually, the merchants and tavern keepers who made their livings on the rock became as numerous as the pirates and brigands who sought refuge there. Of the pirate captains, Kozar sensed that times were changing on the rock, that the days of lawlessness were coming to an end. Upon Kozar's death, the rule of Brawl passed on to Froon, his son and heir. Froon was far from an able politician. Rather, he was a hedonist whose overindulgences comprised his authority. So, like I said, this pretty much is just the Sword Coast. Froon was succeeded by his son Kalar, whose bearing and taste resembled those of his father's, but whose time as the Overlord lasted only days. Ooh. Kalar died 6 years ago under mysterious circumstances. Shortly after taking the throne, his body was found floating in space just beyond the asteroid's air envelope. Though his space on the throne is secure for now, Prince Andrew is merely only one player in a maze of political intrigue. So, that by itself is just a myriad of campaigns all at once. I wonder if we're going to run into the rock when we start reading the campaign book. Yeah, who's who, Prince Andrew as his court, Proconsul Godaric Main, Andrew's chief advisor, and Captain Maxahara Zell, the current captain of the Royal Guard, and the Underbarons. They're giving us a lot of information on this. You can pretty much just use this as a setting out of the box. Underbarons, each one equivalent to the Master of the Thieves Guild, compete amongst themselves for a better share of influence and income in the city. Okay. The Rock of Brawl is only 1 mile long and a half in width and depth, oriented front to back with a leading edge and a trailing edge. We're dealing with tiny planet mechanics here. The city of Brawl is spread across its top side. On the trailing edge rises the High City, which includes the Royal Palace of Starhaven and its grounds, the noble estates, and Lake Brawl. From there, the geography of Brawl shapes down towards its middle city, the financial and mercantile heart of its city. The underside of its rock is off limits to its general population and is not part of the city per se. It is where the military forces are based. Oh boy. Citizens on top of the rock, military directly underneath the rock. Not an arrangement that I would personally hope to have. So, yes. So this is a description of the High City. Prince Andrew's Palace of Starhaven is the crown of the rock. Lake Brawl fills a chasm and provides most of the water which sustains Brawl's population. Though the lake means that a source of water isn't normally concerned on Brawl, the water supply becomes depleted every few years. To replenish it, the Brawlian Navy embarks on an expedition to latch onto a nearby ice asteroid and bring it back. Before being brought into the rock's gravity plane and lowered into the lake, the ice is broken up into manageable pieces. A natural storm formation called the Stone Bridge spans a narrow part of the lake. So then just descriptions of different areas within the grounds. Festival grounds, library of spheres, the Man o' War, a fine restaurant and inn in the city, Royal Theatre Company, and the Temple District. And then, let's see. The temples in the Temple District are devoted to various gods based on pantheons. The priests are willing to cast helpful spells in exchange for a donation, as noted in the helpful spells table. So yeah, there are priests here, and they're capable of doing these kinds of revival spells. So the middle city, the middle part of Brawl, where probably the significant amount of the common folk tend to live. The Don John is a wall fortification near the shore of Lake Brawl, where some offenders and malefactors against the crown are held. In addition to its role as an auxiliary barracks for the Royal Guard, the donjon is where those who judge too dangerous to serve sentences working on the fields or the undersides can be imprisoned. And so, let me see the Edge, one of the largest, busiest taverns. Elemandar charts. Elemandar, a retired elf villager, is Brawl's most accomplished astronomer. The star charts that he and his staff of cartographers create are highly sought after by navigators. These maps don't come cheap, each one priced between 300 and 800 gold pieces. But the owner of an Elmendar map can bring it back to the shop at any time for an update at no charge. Gaspar's Reclamations magic item shop. Great market, chaotic expensive small vendors, Juggler's Folk Guild House. An acting company that puts on body and crafts comedies to maintain the ruse the underbearer known as the Juggler operates out of the theater, occasionally performing before audiences unaware of her identity. So, a bunch of married clowns that are probably secretly thieves in the Thieves Guild. Red Mask Guild House, Mages Guild Hall, the Syndiath Line, the Smith's Coaster, Valkyne's Legion, and then the low section of the city, which includes the docks. A set of wooden docks extends into wild space to provide berths for new arrivals. Caverns in the gravity plane have been cut into the rock's edge and turned into storage areas. Many of them are fitted with hosts to transport cargo into the warehouse topside. And then the dry dock, shipyards with a flat long area along the leading edges where ships are built and repaired. And then the Happy Beholder, a prosperous tavern owned and run by Large Luigi, a famous, lawful, neutral beholder. Luigi has encyclopedic knowledge of all sorts of topics, and he's more than happy to share information with just about anybody. He is a civic-minded, well-liked citizen who has no political ambitions. His tavern is rarely troubled by bullies or thieves. Yeah, he's so happy, It's great to find, there can be nothing happier than a self-satisfied beholder. Because, beholders always want, and if you're able to divest yourself of that, then you are a beholder with an enormous amount of willpower. The lesser market, the Low Cities Marketplace, smaller and shabbier than the Great Market. The Mercane Agency is where, the Mercane alien, the Mercane's the alien race from Boo's Astral Menageries. Alexa, turn off. Sorry about that. Something about that, set off my smart speaker. Yeah, that's an ascension right there. The Rock Rat, dilapidated and filthy tavern. Xeno Termination Limited, a small group of highly capable combat specialists and spellcasters make a living by hiring themselves out to capture or kill formidable wild space creatures. Historic enclaves, the underside of the rock, is where is under the purview of the prince. No private citizens are allowed to reside there. The surface is devoted mostly to fields that are planted and cultivated to replenish Brawl supplies of food and air. It also contains the headquarters and docks of the Royal Navy Barracks. The underside is under military control. Unauthorized visitors get themselves apprehended or greatly assumed to be either spies or prisoners. And then the Citadel, the fields, the naval base, the prisoner barracks, and the veins. And so that's the conclusion of the book, I have to admit that I'm just the tiniest bit disappointed by the fact that, we spent a lot of time, talking about navigating wild space, visiting the astral plane in the earlier section of the book, and then just the last part of the book only has one setting of it, and it's not even really like a full planet. It's really just something more of an asteroid. But, this isn't supposed to be the campaign book, so I'm more than certain that, we are going to read a little bit more of that when we actually get to that one. But that was the entirety of the Astral's Adventurer Guide, and so this has been a very informative stream, at least in my opinion, because, I got the opportunity in order to look at some online DM tools and also uh, look at the rest of the Spelljammer settings. So um, uh, I'm I kind of have, well, even as I'm sitting right here right now, I have a mindset that, well, I'm going to use all of this. I'm going to start working on this for my upcoming campaign. But who's to really say? I can't predict the future. But I'm looking forward to using all of these utilities on the stream in the very immediate future. Anyways, thank you very much for tuning in to Brainy the RPG Cat. I remain Brainy the RPG Cat. As usual, this stream is brought to you by GreatMedia.Games. For inexpensive TCG single cards, visit GreatMedia.Games and use the code 10Infinity at checkout for 10% off your online purchase. So, thank you everybody for tuning in. This concludes our broadcast day. I'm gonna do a right now. Let's see who might be on Twitch at the moment. Let's see. I think I would like to pay a visit to. They might be interesting. Let's see. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to Confetti the Clown. Confetti the Clown is well known for playing survival horror games. Let's start with a shout out. Okay, right now they're in the middle of playing 7 Days to Die.
Oh, what if wrong?
And they did a little bit of cooking YouTube apparently. Alright, so let's head over there. Okie dokie, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning into the stream today. Tomorrow, I'm going to get my art material going, and we're going to write a little bit more of Brainy the RPG Cat, the upcoming comic book. So, thank you, everybody, for staying tuned in. You guys have been a wonderful audience. Good night, everybody. And thank you very much for watching. OS Devin says, cheers, Brainy the RPG Cat. Good stream. Thank you, OS Devin. Thank you so much. And thank you very much for watching.